Ever feel like the world of money is like kind of mysterious?
Yeah, definitely. It can feel that way.
Well, today we're going deep, deep into that world,
Oh, sounds interesting.
exploring how money is actually created, you know,
Okay.
and what it means for you and me, like in our everyday lives.
Right.
We've got this YouTube video as our guide today.
Oh, cool.
It's called System of Money, Creation of Money, Money Documentary.
Catchy title.
It is. And it's from a channel called Meconomy.
Meconomy. Okay.
Yeah. And from what I've seen, it takes a pretty critical look at the current system.
I see. So we're going to be diving into some potentially controversial stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of thought-provoking questions about like its impact on individuals and the global economy as a whole.
That's a big one. Yeah.
It is. And, you know, the video, it starts with a pretty startling claim.
Oh,
Like, did you know that in the UK, as of 2010,
okay.
less than 3% of the total money supply was actual physical cash?
Wow, that's really low. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. Right. It's a huge contrast to like the past.
So like when was it different?
Well, think back to 1948.
Okay.
Physical money, so like notes and coins, you know, made up almost 18% of the money supply.
Wow. So like almost 6 times higher back then?
Yeah, exactly. And this difference actually helps explain how the UK government
Yeah.
could finance these huge projects like the National Health Service
Oh, interesting.
after World War II, you know.
Right. They had a lot more physical cash to work with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So where did all that cash go?
Yeah. It's not like we all just stuffed it under our mattresses.
No, definitely not. What happened is that money kind of took on a new form, right?
Oh.
The majority of money in circulation today, it isn't physical anymore. It's something called commercial bank money.
Commercial bank money. So what is that exactly?
So essentially, it's digital money that banks create when they issue loans.
So banks can just create money.
Well, it's not
Yeah.
magic or
Really?
anything, but it might feel like it.
Okay, so how does this work?
So when banks grant loans, right, they're not just lending out money that already exists in their vaults.
Right.
They're actually creating brand new money, like
Right.
as accounting entries in their systems.
Wow.
And then when those loans are repaid,
Yeah.
that newly created money, it essentially vanishes.
It disappears.
Yeah, it's like it never existed.
That's strange.
It is. But here's the catch, right?
Okay.
The banks, they get to keep the interest.
Ah, I see. So they profit from this creation process.
Exactly.
This does.
So you're telling me that private institutions, not governments, are in charge of creating most of the money
Yeah.
that flows through our economy.
That's exactly what the video argues.
And the numbers are pretty eye-opening.
Okay, so like give me an example.
Okay, so between 1998 and 2007, UK banks created a whopping 1.2 trillion pounds.
1.2 trillion. Wow.
Yeah, that's a huge number.
It is.
Now, in comparison,
Yeah.
the UK Treasury only created 18 billion pounds.
Oh, wow. That's a huge difference.
It is
That-
by
okay.
printing actual cash,
Yeah.
you know, during that same period.
So most of the money wasn't even physical.
Right.
Wow.
It's a difference in scale that's just, it's hard to fathom.
Yeah, I'm starting to see why they call it a system of money
Right.
and not just, well, money.
Yeah, it's a whole system built on this idea of bank lending.
Okay, but how does this affect, like, our everyday lives?
That's a great question. So the video suggests that this system of money creation, specifically through bank lending, it has some serious consequences.
Okay, like what?
Well, for instance, it might be like a key driver of those boom-bust cycles.
Oh, you mean those periods of, like, rapid growth
Yeah.
and then sudden crashes?
Exactly.
I always thought that was just, like, the natural rhythm of the economy.
Right. It seems that way.
Yeah.
But the video argues that this boom and bust pattern, it isn't like inevitable. It suggests that easy lending practices by banks
Okay.
leading to like excessive borrowing might be a major factor.
So too much easy money leads to problems down the line.
Exactly. So when credit is widely available, right, people and businesses are encouraged to take on more debt,
Right.
leading to these like unsustainable levels of borrowing.
It's like a house of cards. Eventually, it's all going to come crashing down.
Yeah. And eventually this can cause the economy to overheat and collapse.
It does make sense.
It's kind of like blowing up a balloon until it bursts.
That's a good analogy.
Okay, so can you give me like a real-world example?
Sure. Think about the UK housing market.
Okay.
We've seen these skyrocketing house prices in recent years.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, some of that might be due to genuine factors.
Like what?
Like increasing demand,
Right.
more people wanting to buy homes.
Right.
But the video argues that a big part of this price surge
Yeah.
is fueled by, you guessed it, bank lending.
So it's not just about people earning more money and wanting nicer homes,
Exactly. It's about banks providing these easy mortgages,
which then
which inflate the demand for houses.
and drives up prices even more.
It's like this self-perpetuating cycle.
It is, yeah. But wouldn't that benefit people who already own homes?
Well, that's true.
Because their property value goes up.
Yeah, but it also creates a problem
Okay.
for those who are trying to, get on the property ladder
Right.
or even just rent a decent place.
That's so much harder.
Yeah, these rising housing costs, fueled by this cycle of lending,
Mm-hmm.
can lead to a whole host of financial pressures for individuals and families.
Yeah, it's a great example of how this seemingly abstract system
Mm-hmm.
of money creation has very real-world consequences.
Definitely.
This is starting to get a bit unsettling.
I know, right?
It sounds like this system of money creation benefits some
Yeah.
while putting others at a disadvantage.
That's one of the main criticisms the video levels at the current system.
Mm-hmm.
It argues that a system built on debt inherently benefits those who already have wealth.
Because the more money you have,
Right.
the easier it is to get loans and further increase your wealth,
Exactly. It creates a sort of feedback loop.
where the rich get richer.
Yeah, the video even uses the term redistributive system,
Interesting.
suggesting that the current setup actually shifts wealth upwards
Oh, that's it.
towards the already wealthy.
And powerful financial institutions.
Exactly.
That doesn't sound very fair.
Not really.
And speaking of unfair, what about inflation?
Mm.
If banks can create money out of thin air,
Yeah.
wouldn't that lead to like a decrease in the value
Mm.
of the money we already have?
That's another key concern raised by the video.
Yeah.
The idea is that this constant creation of new money
Yeah.
can lead to inflation,
Mm-hmm.
which erodes the purchasing power of, our hard-earned cash.
So essentially, our money buys less over time.
Exactly.
So even if I manage to save some money,
yeah.
it might be worth less in the future
Potentially, yes.
because of this system.
That's the risk the video highlights.
It's challenging that common belief
Mhm.
that the Bank of England has everything under control when it comes to inflation.
Right.
The video argues that official inflation figures
Yeah.
often focus on consumer goods.
Like groceries and clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But ignore asset bubbles.
Like the housing market we just talked about.
Exactly. This makes me wonder, like, how much control
Mm-hmm.
do we really have over our own financial well-being
Yeah.
if so much of it is determined by this complex system?
That's an excellent question, and it gets at the heart of why understanding the system is so important.
Yeah.
If we don't know how the system works,
Mhm.
it's harder to make, informed decisions.
About our own financial lives.
Exactly.
And that brings us to another critical point raised by the video,
Okay.
the issue of government bailouts
Okay.
and their impact on taxpayers.
Right. So when banks get into trouble. Yeah.
Don't governments often step in to bail them out?
Exactly.
How does that tie into this whole money creation thing?
Well, the video argues that when banks face collapse,
Mm-hmm.
governments often feel compelled to bail them out.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They don't want the whole system to crumble.
Exactly. And remember, banks create most of the money in circulation.
Right.
So if a major bank were to go under,
Right.
it could potentially wipe out a significant portion of the money supply.
Leading to economic chaos.
Exactly.
So the government's kind of forced to save the banks,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means putting a strain on public finances.
That's the argument, yeah.
And ultimately, who bears the cost of these bailouts?
It's the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Through increased taxes, cuts to public services.
Right.
And sometimes even the privatization of vital resources.
Yeah, that's a big one.
To put this in perspective,
Okay.
the video offers a striking comparison.
What's that?
Britain spent more on bailing out banks.
Then 6 times the cost of putting a man on the moon.
That's insane.
It's a crazy number, right?
It makes you wonder if there are, alternative approaches
Yeah.
to managing the financial system.
Ones that don't involve such huge risks and burdens on the public.
Exactly.
That's a great segue to the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, cool.
The video does explore alternative monetary systems
Okay.
that might be fairer and more stable.
I'm definitely curious to learn more about that.
Well, this deep dive has already been pretty eye-opening.
It really has.
So let's take a break and we'll come back to that in part 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've heard about the problems,
Right.
but if the current system is as flawed as this video suggests,
Yeah.
what are the alternatives? Like, what else is out there?
Well, the video explores a few intriguing possibilities.
Okay.
One that really stood out to me was the idea of a currency backed by energy.
A currency based on energy.
Yeah, specifically kilowatt hours.
That's a fascinating concept.
It is?
I could see how that could incentivize like the shift towards renewable sources.
Exactly.
Like solar, wind.
Imagine a world where the value of a currency
Yeah.
is directly linked to something as fundamental as energy.
Right.
It could encourage investment in renewable energy infrastructure.
Yeah.
Technologies, potentially addressing both economic and environmental challenges.
It's like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly.
But how would such a system work in practice? Like, would we be paying for groceries with watts instead of pounds or dollars?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky.
Yeah.
The video does acknowledge the practical challenges of implementing such a system on a global scale.
Right.
You know, you'd need international agreements
Yeah.
on how to measure and value energy units.
It'd be a lot of coordination
It would. You'd also need to ensure a stable and reliable energy supply.
to avoid those wild fluctuations.
Exactly. You don't want the currency to be super volatile.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like a complex undertaking.
It would be, for sure.
What about those other alternative systems?
The video mentions a few others.
Okay.
Another idea is a currency backed by a basket of commodities.
A basket of commodities.
Yeah, so instead of pegging the currency to a single commodity like gold,
Which can be pretty volatile.
exactly, you'd spread the risk across a diverse basket of goods.
Okay, so like what kind of commodities are we talking about?
Think gold, oil, wheat,
Okay.
other essential resources.
So basically diversifying the backing
Exactly.
to create a more stable system.
That's the idea. By diversifying, you could
Mhm.
potentially create a more stable and predictable system.
That makes sense.
Of course, there are challenges here too.
Like what?
Deciding which commodities to include in the basket and
Right.
how to weight them.
It's pretty complex.
It is. It's a complex economic and political decision.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Okay, so what about international agreements to manage exchange rates? Is that a realistic solution to like currency manipulation?
It's certainly a challenging goal.
Yeah.
The video argues that cooperation among nations is crucial
Mhm.
to prevent those currency wars.
Which can really destabilize things.
Exactly. They can destabilize the global economy.
It's hard to imagine countries willingly giving up control over their own currencies.
Yeah, the video acknowledges that
Yeah.
overcoming political and economic hurdles would be essential for such a system to work.
It's a lot of trust involved.
It is, but it does present a compelling vision
Okay.
of a more stable and fair global trading environment.
Where cooperation trumps competition.
Exactly.
So we've got these alternative systems,
Yeah.
each with its own set of benefits and challenges. It seems like there's no like easy answer.
There isn't, not really.
Where do we go from here?
Well, the key takeaway from the video
Mhm.
isn't necessarily to advocate for one specific alternative.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the limitations of the current system
Mm.
and understanding that there are other possibilities out there.
So it's more about opening our minds
Exactly.
to different ways of thinking about money.
It's not just about accepting the system as it is.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have choices
Yeah,
and that we can demand a system that works better for everyone.
that makes sense.
The video really emphasizes the importance of awareness and education.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly. The more we understand about how money works,
Mm-hmm.
the better equipped we are to make, informed decisions about our own financial lives.
Right.
And to advocate for change at a broader level.
So this brings us back to the impact of this system on our everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
We talked earlier about how the current system can fuel those booms and busts.
Right.
Inflation, inequality.
Yeah, all those big issues.
How can individuals navigate these challenges?
Even if they can't single-handedly change the whole system?
That's a good question.
Well, one powerful tool is simply being aware of the forces at play.
Okay, so like recognizing that bank lending practices
Exactly.
can contribute to rising housing costs.
It helps us make more informed decisions.
Okay, so knowledge is power,
Right.
but what about taking action?
Mm-hmm.
Are there concrete steps we can take to make a difference?
Even on a small scale,
Yeah.
there are several things individuals can do.
Okay.
For starters, we can demand greater transparency
Okay.
and accountability from our financial institutions and governments.
So basically, we need to know
Right.
where money's coming from,
Exactly.
how it's being used,
Exactly.
who's benefiting from the current system.
We can't fix a system we don't fully understand.
Right. But how can we as individuals make those demands heard?
Well, we can start by asking questions.
Okay.
We can contact our elected officials, engage with our banks, support organizations that are pushing for greater financial transparency.
So using our voices
Exactly.
to advocate for change?
And we can also educate ourselves and others about the money system,
Right.
sharing information, engaging in open and honest conversations about these issues.
It's about starting a dialogue.
It is.
Okay, so it sounds like it's about using our voices and our choices
Yeah.
to push for a more just and equitable financial system.
Exactly.
But what about those alternative systems we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
Are there ways to support those ideas?
Even if they're not yet mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, the video highlights the growing movement for monetary reform.
Okay.
There are organizations and initiatives advocating for alternative systems.
Like the ones we talked about.
Like the ones we talked about.
Energy-backed currencies.
Right.
Commodity-backed currencies.
International agreements to manage exchange rates.
So there are people out there actively working
Yeah.
to create a different kind of financial system.
Absolutely. And supporting these initiatives,
Okay.
whether through donations, volunteering, or simply spreading awareness, can help build momentum for change.
That's encouraging.
It is.
This is starting to feel more hopeful.
Good.
It's not just about feeling powerless in the face of a complex system.
Right.
It's about recognizing our own agency and taking action, even in small ways.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
And speaking of individual action,
Yeah.
another important step is to be mindful of where we put our own money.
You mean choosing banks and financial institutions that align with our values?
Exactly.
There are ethical banks and credit unions
Okay.
that prioritize social and environmental responsibility.
So by choosing to bank with these institutions,
Yeah.
we can help shift the flow of capital.
Towards more sustainable practices.
So it's not just about understanding the system.
Right.
It's about actively participating in shaping a system.
That reflects our values.
Exactly.
That's a key takeaway from this video.
Okay.
The video concludes with a powerful question.
Okay.
And I think it's one we should all consider.
Let's hear it.
If money creation were truly democratic and transparent, what would that look like and how might it change our world?
That's a profound question.
It is.
It challenges us to imagine a world where money serves the needs of people and the planet.
Not just the interests of a few.
It might seem idealistic,
Yeah,
but I think it's important to hold on to that sense of hope.
I agree.
So I think we're ready to wrap up this deep dive in part 3.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back
Back for more.
for the final part of our deep dive.
Into the world of money creation.
Exactly. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
We've explored how money is created, those potential pitfalls of the current system.
Right, and even some alternative approaches.
But now I want to kind of bring it all home. You know,
Okay.
like what can we as individuals actually do
Yeah,
with this newfound knowledge?
that's the big question, right?
It is. And the video we've been discussing, it doesn't just present information.
It encourages us to think about things differently.
Yeah, like to consider those ethical implications.
Of the current system.
Exactly. You mean to think about whether we're comfortable with a system that concentrates so much wealth and power in the hands of just a few.
Exactly. And to consider the consequences of this system.
Right, like the booms and busts,
The inflation, the widening gap between the rich and the poor.
all those big issues.
These aren't just abstract economic concepts.
Yeah, they have real human costs.
Real people are affected by this.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that we have agency within this system.
Yeah, we're not just powerless bystanders.
Right, we might not be able to change everything overnight.
But we can make choices that align with our values.
I completely agree. We can choose to support financial institutions
Right.
that prioritize ethical and sustainable
Yeah,
practices.
exactly.
We can educate ourselves and others about alternative monetary systems.
Become advocates for reform.
And perhaps most importantly, we can just start talking about money
Yeah.
more openly and honestly.
Break the taboo.
It seems like there's a taboo around discussing finances.
There is. It's like this unspoken rule.
But breaking that silence
Mm-hmm.
could empower us to make more informed decisions
For sure.
and demand greater transparency from those in power.
It's about reclaiming our role in shaping the financial landscape.
Yeah, we're not just passive consumers.
Right.
We have a voice
And a responsibility.
to create a system that works for everyone.
Exactly.
This deep dive has really highlighted that connection between money and power.
It's not just about numbers and transactions.
Right. It's about who benefits
Who bears the risks?
and ultimately what kind of world we want to live in.
That's a good point.
So the video leaves us with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, what is it?
If money were truly a tool for the common good,
Mm-hmm.
how would our lives, our communities, and our planet be transformed?
That's a big one.
It is. It challenges us to imagine a world
Yeah,
where money serves a higher purpose.
right. Where it's used to create a more just and sustainable future.
It might seem idealistic,
It does.
but I think it's important to hold on to that sense of hope.
I agree. I think it's essential
Yeah.
to keep striving for something better.
By understanding the system,
Yeah.
exploring alternatives,
Making conscious choices
we can all contribute to creating a better financial future.
for ourselves and generations to come.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive,
It really has.
and I hope it's inspired you, the listener.
To learn more, ask questions,
Maybe even take action,
keep exploring, keep challenging the status quo.
and remember that even small steps.
Can make a difference.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, then.